Israel raises shelters in Palestine and entire residential areas in Gaza with the usual excuse, hunting Hamas and Hezbollah militiamen. The president of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, led the start of the largest ever land handover to farmer communities and victims of violence in the country. And in Haiti, criminal groups have murdered over 50 people while they laid siege to the Pont Saint town. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Israel raises shelters in Palestine and entire residential areas in Gaza with the usual excuse, hunting Hamas and Hezbollah militiamen. According to the latest report issued by the Lebanese Health Ministry, Zionist troops killed 37 civilians and wounded more than 151 in the Lebanese capital in an attempt to assassinate Hashem Safidine, who could be Hassan Nasrallah's replacement as Hezbollah's leader. To the east, Israeli soldiers killed 18 Palestinian civilians after bombing a cafeteria in the Tulkarem refugee camp in the West Bank with U.S.-supplied missiles, injuring at least 20 people. Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesman Ismail Baghei urged the United Nations Security Council to act as soon as possible to stop Israel's crimes in Palestine and Lebanon. The Persian government referred to the threats of the Zionist regime in the region and expressed that they must allow the United Nations Security Council to act before it is too late. The Iranian authority assured that Zionism has raised the tensions that have been experienced in the last months in Western Asia and recalled that in almost a year it has massacred more than 41,000 Palestinians. The Palestinian government has called on the authorities and humanitarian and human rights institutions to put an end to the atrocious crimes committed by the Israeli occupier against its people. The Palestinian executive also recalled that in the recent sessions of the United Nations General Assembly, most of the countries of the world supported the advisory opinion of the International Court of Justice that demands an end within 12 months to the occupation of Palestine. In this regard, the governing body stated that since Israel is acting above the law, it is time to put a stop to Netanyahu's genocidal crimes. In Lebanon, at least 28 health workers were killed by Israeli bombardments in the last 24 hours. The information was shared on Thursday by the World Health Organization, which also warned that medical assistance in the country remains under threat. The international body stressed that the Lebanese health system keeps deteriorating, which risks its operability and hinders the delivery of aid. In this context, it is worth highlighting that, as reported by the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, since October 2023, 73 health workers have been killed in Lebanon in the midst of the Zionist regime's aggressions. On Friday, the Foreign Minister of Iran, Sajed Abbas Araghchi, met with the Lebanese Speaker of Parliament, Najib Mikati, in Beirut. On the encounter, Araghchi reaffirmed that Iran backs up the Lebanese efforts to confront the Israeli offensive. The Iranian diplomat assured that his official visit to Lebanon, despite the harsh war crisis, is proof that his country supports the Hezbollah resistance movement. The authority asserted that the Iranian response to Israel was illegitimate defense, as their embassy to Damascus had previously been hit. The minister granted that his government did not plan to go in on the offensive unless Israel strikes Iran, adding the nation seeks a ceasefire.
My presence in Beirut in this difficult situation, while the Zionist regime is bombarding every night and every moment, is the best sign that the Islamic Republic of Iran will always be firmly behind Hezbollah and will continue to support the Lebanese Shiites and the Lebanese people. This attack was self-defense, a legitimate self-defense based on the principles of the United Nations Charter. Unlike Israel, which attacks civilian targets in the homes of people, women, and children, we only attack the military and security centers of that regime.
The Supreme Leader of Iran, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, offered an exceptional Friday prayer in honor of Hassan Nasrallah, the leader of the Hezbollah resistance movement of Lebanon. In the speech that followed the prayers, Khamenei called for the unity of the Muslim community and assured that the Islamic world has only one enemy, Israel. In this regard, he warned the Zionist regime that they will repeat an attack when necessary and clarified that the recent operation was only the least of the punishments coming for them. Furthermore, Khamenei praised the resistance of the people in Lebanon and Palestine and denounced the United States' support of the Zionist occupier.
Our resisting people in Lebanon and Palestine, you brave fighters, you loyal and patient people, these martyrdoms and the blood that was shed shouldn't shake your determination, but make you more persistent. This malicious entity of Israel has no roots. It's fake and shaky. And it has kept itself present hardly through the United States' support to it. And God willing, it will not survive.
The Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro met on Friday with the ambassador of the Republic of Lebanon, Elias Levos, and ratified the Latin American nation's forceful rejection to the policy of extermination of the Israeli regime against the Palestinian and Lebanese people. This way, while addressing the meeting on his social networks, the head of state denounced the Zionist regime's execution of a project of domination and colonization of the Arab Muslim world and the Middle East. In this regard, President Maduro informed the Venezuelan government will organize a large humanitarian support brigade, will call on the Arab and Lebanese community in the country to mobilize, and will form a never-seen-before global movement against aggressions. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. The President of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, led the start of the largest ever land handover to farmer communities and victims of violence in the country. In Monteria, the capital of the Córdoba department, the executive delivered 8,000 hectares to victims of paramilitary violence. On the ceremony, the head of state stressed the importance of democratizing land as it is part of the administration's efforts to restore peace and justice nationwide. The director of the Unit for Victims explained the significance of this process initiated by the progressive government.
This is a historical day, since it shows a different country. We have a government that has had to fight for decades to get here. In addition, there are some victims who became social leaders, women and men, who not only changed the face of the territory, but also a former paramilitary leader is now a manager of peace. And he has made a commitment in the victims unit that the assets that do not appear in the fund, he himself will be in charge of the assets delivered by paramilitaries reach the fund for reasons of justice.
The former paramilitary chief Salvatore Mancuso joined the peace processes by reaffirming the request for forgiveness to the victims. He also positively compared current Colombia to the far-right war-like Colombia of the past year.
I am committed to redeeming all the damage and pain that I caused you. We, Mr. President, restructured the Colombian countryside by means of different strategies, including a policy of land accumulation that became a de facto agrarian counter-reform, which is exactly what your government is doing today, delivering these lands to the farmers and the victims in Colombia. Thus, the countryside and rural communities are being dignified with these deliveries, as they have suffered the aftermath so.
In Haiti, criminal groups have murdered over 50 people while they laid siege to the Pont-Saint town. Following the attack by armed groups in that locality, the Haitian National Police took various measures to respond to criminal actions. In this regard, many families fled their homes and took refuge in the Philippe Guerrier Public Square in Saint-Marc, east of the Haitian capital. The Commission for Dialogue, Reconciliation and Sensitization to Save Artibonite denounced that neighboring towns were further hit by bandits, amounting the death toll to 30. Thus, this commission, alongside the MSS, are currently deployed to confront all offenders. The United Nations International Organization for Migration reported that more than 700,000 people are now displaced in Haiti, half of them children. The authority added that violence from criminal groups have forced more than 110,000 people to flee their homes in the last 7 months of 2024, adding that Port-au-Prince currently hosts a quarter of the country's displaced individuals. Let's go to Mexico, where President Claudia Sheinbaum dedicated her Friday morning press conference to migration issues. In this regard, the head of state urged the government's work to facilitate migrants' access to consular services.
And also, there were consular services for these permits that were given in Mexico City. Now, most of them have been transferred to the south of Mexico, so that migrants do not have to come from the south, even from Central America, to Mexico City. So, this scheme was transferred to Tabasco, to Chiapas, and this has had many results, among many other actions that are being carried out.
In Uruguay, the Public Prosecutor's Office began investigations into the fire in a prison cell in the capital city of Montevideo, which caused the death of 6 prisoners. In this context, the president of the Prison Workers Union of the country, Germán Gutiérrez, denounced the government's deficiency prison policy.
The lack of state presence has reached a breaking point. In fact, this government has led to a policy of disinvestment in prisons. There have been 4,000 more prisoners. We are already reaching 16,000. But the budgets in place are those of when there were around 11,000. There has even been a lack of food. In fact, the parliamentary commissioner made a habeas corpus trial at the beginning of this year where it mandated the state to reinforce the food supply because the government was no longer feeding the prisons. The lack of authority of the state inside these centers has led to a situation of anarchy, and the same incidents of December last year are repeated, where in the same prison module, there were 6 deaths, and now we have to lament 6 more deaths. We really have to begin to study the civil and criminal responsibilities of the authorities, because we are clearly facing a situation of omission of the state functions.
We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. Argentinian Lionel Messi becomes the player with the most titles in the history of world soccer with 46 after winning the championship with Inter Miami against the Columbus Crew.
Leo Messi continues to win titles, whether in Europe or the United States. And since his arrival at the Inter Miami club, he has already lifted a couple of trophies, the latest being the MLS Supporters' Shield, after defeating Columbus Crew 3-2 away and confirming himself as the best team of the regular season of the North American League. Messi was the great figure of the match when he scored twice. The first to open the scoring at 45 minutes of the first half, controlling a long pass from Jordi Alba, a connection that never fails, and defining in an excellent way. The Argentinian scored again in the second half with his trademark A spectacular free kick impossible for the goalkeeper.
Imposible para el guardameta. El título es el número 46 en las
The title is the 46th in the trophy cabinet of the Flea, who, since his arrival to the team coached by Gerardo Tata Martino, has turned it into a team that competes, besides giving him his first 2 trophies in the franchise's short history. Messi heads a list of players with an undisputed list of honors that includes Brazilian Dani Alves with 43, Andre Iniesta with 40, and Hassam Hassan with 39.
Y Hossam Hassan con 39.
The 25th edition of the French Film Festival was inaugurated in Cuba. The festival will be held until October 13 and will present the films at the Chaplin Cinema in Havana. One of the participating productions is November, which will kick off the event, a crime thriller directed by Cedric Jimenez. Also, Laurent Cantat's La Classe, winner of the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Festival, will be screened. The festival will also pay tribute to actor Alain Delon, a leading French filmmaker who passed away last August. In Cuba, Convergences is the exhibition that the photographer Roberto Chile and the poet Alexis Diaz-Pimienta proposed to lovers of good art that until next October 16th visit the gallery El Reino de este Mundo at the José Martí National Library in Havana.
Convergencias es un diálogo de fotos y de versos.
In Cuba, Convergences is the exhibition that the photographer Roberto Chile and the poet Alexis Diaz-Pimienta proposed to the lovers of good art that until next October 16th visit the gallery El Reino de este Mundo at the José Martí National Library in Havana.
Según sus creadores, esta muestra es un homenaje a los cubanos, a su resistencia y fe.
En ese diálogo entre la imagen
In that dialogue between the image and the word, between the sign and the letter, is the axial axis of this exhibition.
de esta exposición. El arte visual tiene esa cosa de la polisemia, ¿no?
Visual art has the polysemy, the possibilities of a 2-3 readings of the image. Art always has a critical component, and in this case, Chile examines the Cuban reality.
Examina, y en este caso, Chile está examinando la realidad cubana.
Alexis has made some texts that are not free. They are texts in dependence of an image. It has a forced foot and it shines.
Pudiéramos decir un pie forzado. Y brilla.
Aquí convergen las miradas.
Here, the looks, the words, and the feelings converge. Experts agree that the photographer is a creator who problematizes his iconography, and that the recreator stands out for his mastery and originality.
I believe that the authenticity of the exhibition of Chile and Pimienta is in the questions that are asked, which are those that all Cubans ask themselves and the answers that are given. Curiously, in the day-to-day, one is always trying to make sense of the things that are being faced, and I think that is the sense that this exhibition has, which is to seek a meaning to everything that we Cubans do.
Son 38 fotografías.
There are 38 photographs accompanied by Cuban decimas, composed specially for the occasion. Conceptual images, documentaries, portraits, cityscapes, and digital art. With Convergencias, Chile celebrates 70 years of life and 40 years of artistic and journalistic work.
There are photographs here that, if you look at them well, most of them are unpublished. There are brushstrokes of all my projects and brushstrokes of the last times in which I went out again camera in hand to portray, and in other cases conceptual photographs that I made when the pandemic. That is to say, it is a kind of combination of looks, concepts, ideas, of nostalgia, concerns, questions, about the moment we live and life in the world.
Dice Roberto Chile que las obras.
Roberto Chile says that the works in this exhibition are alerts, concerns, obsessions, and doubts. He warns that photography and poetry will not solve the problems of Cuba, nor those of humanity, but they can make us focus on them.
This is an exhibition that, if you look at it in depth, metaphorically it is dedicated to the resistance of the Cuban people. It is dedicated to the people who are suffering the onslaught of the moment in which we live. difficult moments, of shortages, difficulties, problems, but hope is never extinguished, it is there latent, however it is. We Cubans believe that the future will be ours and that Cuba will be better tomorrow.
Va a ser nuestro y que Cuba será mejor mañana.
El poeta de esta muestra lo hace.
The poet of this exhibition has sentenced it. There are two voices without stridency, in an honest exhibition of traditional Cuban songs known as décimas, and photos with insular convergences.
Fabiola López, telesur, La Habana.
We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok as well. For Telesur English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.
Hola, soy Aisa García. Tú y yo tenemos una cita cada semana para conocer tradiciones, costumbres, valores, sonidos y ritmos, símbolos y el gran abanico de las expresiones culturales que nos forman y que tienen origen en el alma de los pueblos y nos dan identidad.